Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast with coach, encourager, and strategist Anna McLaughlin. If you're a Christian woman who has big dreams rooted in an even bigger God, but most days those dreams feel completely out of reach, trust me, I get it. As a homeschooling mama of 4, entrepreneur, investor, and all around wearer of many hats, I am right there with you. And yet the Lord invites us to live out our God-given purpose now in the midst of the madness. So let's explore together how we can know our calling and walk in it today with clarity, with courage, with each other. It's time for you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's do this thing.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. I have JoBeth Polley here. JoBeth, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
JoBeth, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Give everybody a little hint into what we're talking about today.
So we're going to talk about grief,
Yeah.
which we've
Stay
had a
here though.
real,
Don't leave.
yeah, don't leave. We had a real playful conversation about it prior to this, but I work with people through their grief, typically women, and there's a really long story that led me to this point, but in a couple sentences, I had a really great childhood. Like things were really, really perfect. And right before college started, I was like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? And I was like, oh, I want to help people. And then my very next thought was like, you've been through nothing difficult in your entire life. Like nobody's going to relate to you. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. And and then I went to college, met right at the same time I went to college, I met my husband, and it was like immediately dreams to start a family and all these things that we were gonna have and do and go and see and all the things. And we got married. A couple years into our marriage, we decided we wanted to have kids, and really quickly we decided or realized that we're not going to be able to have kids, not naturally, anyways. And that was devastating, but I was like, oh, well, it'll still, though, there's going to be some way we can have a child. And so we went from South Florida to Central Missouri to LA to all the best doctors in the United States for infertility. And man, it was just one after the other of it didn't work, it didn't work, it didn't work. And eventually we had to accept the reality that we would never physically have children together. And that was my first real huge experience with grief. And it was a different kind of grief. It wasn't like when my dog died or when my grandparent died or anything like that. It's that grief of losing something that you never had. And it's like what do you even do with that? And that was really, really hard. And then fast forward a couple years, we decided that, or a couple few months after the last one, we decided that we were going to adopt through foster care. And it felt like the right thing to do. It felt very much like that's what God wanted us to do. He had closed every other door, and it was like, okay, like obviously this is what you want, and so this is what we're going to do. We were very excited about that. And about a year and a half into that process, we adopted what is now our son and our daughter. And things were perfect for like 5 years. We bought a farm. We're farmers, cattle farmers. And oh, and sheep. I just bought sheep yesterday. And so,
No.
yeah, I've never been a shepherd before, but I am now. I'm
Well,
like,
you're the daughter of a shepherd, so that sounds
oh,
about right. Jesus
yeah.
is a shepherd.
So a guy yesterday, he said the sheep need to know the sound of your voice. And I was like, oh, that hits.
Hmm.
Okay. So I talked to my sheep. Anyways, as of yesterday, we were cattle and now cattle and sheep. And my husband built our home that I'm in today. Everything was great. Then our marriage almost started like falling apart.
Mm.
And I was like, what is happening? It was like he lost interest in me for sure. Pretty much everything outside of work, he just kind of lost interest to. And I was sitting in this room and I told my best friend, I was like, I don't know how long I can stay in this marriage. It was very like he was picking fights. And it was just like, this is not him. Like we would have our knockdown dragouts. Like
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
this was different. This was weird. It was over nothing. He would get upset after he had already got upset. It was weird. Then he missed a meeting and then forgot how to get to one of his meetings, which we live out in a rural area. So I was just like, yeah, like I would get lost too. Not a big deal. But it was a little odd that he did. And then about 2 weeks after that, he got a major headache. Like couldn't get out of bed. It was hurting so bad. And we went to the emergency room. Within an hour or two, we had a diagnosis of glioblastoma, which is a terminal brain cancer. The doctor handed us a pamphlet on glioblastoma, and my eyes went directly to the part that said life expectancy or prognosis or whatever, 12 to 16 months. And
Oh.
I'm like, what
Mhm.
is happening? Like, my he's 6'4" and strong and like nothing can take him down, and then it's like in an instance everything was just, it was just like everything was black, like there
Yeah.
nothing mattered,
Mhm.
nothing was anything. It was just like there was nothingness. And in my faith was like, that says 12 to 16 months, but God says, he is going to have different plans. And so it was a year long of me understanding what we were dealing with and seeing the MRIs and seeing that, like, basically his brain was being eaten by cancer. And so
Mm.
I'm a very optimistic person,
Yeah.
most generally. So his cancer was in the front right part of his brain, which was where personality was at. And things hadn't been going extremely well. He'd been getting really grouchy and hateful and stuff. And so they were like, it's good to have it there because it won't kill you. Like glioblastoma won't
Yeah.
kill you up here. And I was like, okay. They're like, but it will change your personality. And I immediately was like, oh, I bet he's going to be a lot more fun. Like maybe it's going to make him like he was pretty serious and,
Yeah.
pretty strict. And I was like, we're about to have a good time. Maybe, like I
I
was
I
thinking
love
this.
that you went there. I love that, especially since he'd already been exhibiting signs that it was changing for the worse, right?
I know. And so I was like, that was just my thoughts. Like, okay, this could totally take a 360, or not 360, a 180
Yeah.
and go the other direction. Anyways, I was wrong. But so he had surgery a month later and didn't wake up from surgery. And so in my mind and in my spirit, I'm going back and forth between, like, I see on the MRIs what's happening to his brain. It's
Mhm.
literally like disappearing
Yeah.
and he's changing. Um, he reacted terribly to medications, and it just like we really lost him at diagnosis when they started medicating him. He
Yeah.
just wasn't the same anymore. So for just a little bit less than 12 months, he battled with it. We all battled with it, and he passed away. And that, um, when we talk about faith and we talk about our relationship with God, that's a hard pill to swallow
Yeah.
when you put so much trust in God. I was fasting, which was not something I had practiced before.
Hmm.
But this felt like the right time. This
Yeah.
felt like when I was going to pull out all the stops. I
Yeah.
was fasting. I wasn't the only one who was fasting and praying. People all around the world were praying for him, and then we get the answer that it's a no.
Yeah.
He's passed. And then what do we do with that?
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to understand. I had poured everything that I had in me spiritually out to God, and then my
Hmm.
husband died, and people would be like, he healed him in heaven. And I was like, let's be very clear, that was not my prayer, that he
Yeah.
be healed in heaven.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think people say a lot, and maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah.
um but it
Well,
shook
and
my faith.
I wonder too, my I've noticed for myself, it's like you can speak if you're hurting more than the person you're talking to. Like if I, when I lost my dad, I could say to a friend, there was a yes, it just wasn't the yes I wanted. But if
Hmm.
I'm going to turn around and say that to someone else whose dad died and it's not my dad, like we
Yeah.
got to be real careful. We've got to be, because we can hurt people by just like Band-Aid. I feel better now. I hope you do. No, I'm still here waking up every morning with this pain.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Band-Aid, that is what people are trying to do. Like, they're
Yeah.
trying to make you feel better, and, one thing that I was really leery of was people accrediting my husband's death to God, like he needed him more than we did, or he needed another
Um,
angel. And I'm like, do not say that in front of my kids
no.
because I don't think it's true. I don't think God needed him.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that was the way that went in the first place. But then it's like, I don't want my kids' first experience with really trusting in God and like leaning on him and then be like, he is the reason for my pain.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to lead into part of our conversation for today is, we serve this God that is so good and we know he's good. We
Yes.
know his character. We know that like he's promised us this thing that we can't do for ourselves.
Hmm.
And then something happens that hurts us so bad
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's where I see a lot of people at in my work that I do, and then in myself of how could he do that?
Hmm. Yeah.
And here's my thing, and I would love to know what you think about it too.
Yeah.
Um, we are not all knowing.
Yeah.
And God is. And I love this picture. It's out on the internet all over the place, but there's this little kid and God's asking him to hand over his little teddy bear.
Yeah.
Jesus is kneeled down and behind his back, he has a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
And so and the kid's crying because he doesn't want to give up his little teddy bear. And then because he doesn't know that God has something so much better,
Yeah.
something so good for him. And
Yeah.
so somebody 100% is listening right now and is thinking, "Oh, you took my husband or my child and you got something better for me."
Yeah.
That's not my point. My
Yeah.
point is that we don't know why God is doing what he's doing in the moment.
Yeah.
And when we try to figure it out ourselves, it's really dangerous.
Yes.
And
Yes.
my thing and the ground I stood on was that I don't know. God does know. And I have to be okay in my ignorance about that because I felt like questioning was putting me in really dangerous territory and I wasn't willing to step into that.
Yes. Yeah. And we start with I mean I agree with you and I think that these are hard purchased reckonings, right? Like they always come at deep cost because we don't really like the time we ask these questions is when we're faced with something agonizing. And then we have to really go, okay, well, how does my theology hold up right now in this moment in the face of this pain? And when we start with the question of why would he do this, I remember saying to a friend when I was dealing with a very different kind of grief and it was a newish grief for me of like the grief of um facing consequences that I felt I could have avoided
Mm-hmm.
that led to pain for myself, but also for other people. That I had made a choice that I thought was a good one at the time, but the consequences that came from that led to a lot of pain for a lot of people and people that I cared about. And the hardest part of that for me was in the midst of that grief, I was asking so many questions about God. I prayed about this. I thought you told me to walk forward in this way. And it was like I was losing him in the way that I knew him up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's a resurrection God, like there was a dawn on the other side, but it was terrifying to go, I can't lose you right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't lose my faith in you. I need that more than anything. And yet it was tested.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go there, but then I also want to say something about what you just said of like when we start, I want to wrap up my first thought, which is when I start with the premise of why would he, it completely misses the whole point of what he purchased for us from the garden, which is choice. And because of that, there is darkness in the world and
Mm-hmm.
there's death and there's sin and there's loss. And so it's not so much he's sitting there on high going, I could give you a life with candy canes and rainbows and nothing but but beauty and joy, but I'm going to give you this dark cloud instead. Sorry, you like drew the short end. This is just the life that humanity chose, and the cross comes and sets many things right that should not, you know, that based on just the law of consequence should not have been made right, but not everything. And this world is not the end of the story. Now, we can say that in concept, but then we walk out our own individual suffering, and it's just a totally different game, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
not this portion, not this one. Okay, so you're in the midst, and I mean, you're young now. Like, how old were you when you guys were going through all of this?
You know what's crazy is that, like, he got diagnosed in January and then he passed away in January, and, like, in my brain, it's like the dates are, like the dates always confuse me, and I don't know why, but
Yeah.
he got sick in the very beginning of, 22, and he died in 23,
Good
like,
night.
the second day of 23.
Mm,
So yeah, I was 32 when he passed, and he was 40. So
oh
he was
my
8 years older than
goodness.
me. Yeah, super
Mm,
young.
so young.
Um there's so much though. Like I will never like be like I'm so thankful that my husband died, because
Yeah.
that's never going to be true, but I can find a lot of thankfulness in some things, in
Mhm.
how it's changed me,
Yeah.
how I can show up for others. Because before, when people would talk about pain, I was like, man, that stinks. Like,
Yeah.
I hate that for you.
Hmm.
And then, but now I can say, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what you're feeling, but like, I know how I felt.
Yeah.
And I can at least go there. It helps me to be such a better lover of people.
Yes.
And, I know there's times during my grief that I showed up in probably unattractive ways, maybe
Mhm.
some off putting ways. And so now when I see people who are being off putting, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're going through. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder, when they stop at a stoplight and don't go when
Yeah.
it turns green, I'm like, okay, they could be on their cell phone.
Yeah.
It, that could be somebody just like me who just got in the car and is headed home from the most devastating day of her life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna honk. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna. I'll sit here all day. You will not hear me honk at somebody. I will sit there all day. I'll miss that light. If I miss a second one, I might start to get a little concerned. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I can show up in a way that I couldn't show up before because I didn't get it, and now I
Yes.
get it, and I can be thankful for that. Can be thankful. As Christians, we're called to love each other,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying that you can't love somebody without experiencing deep grief, but definitely changes things for you, gives you a
Yeah.
perspective you didn't have. And for those things, I'm very thankful.
Hmm. I love that. I mean, and one of the things I've heard described before, maybe counseling circles, I don't know. I don't know if this is something you're more familiar with than I, but just that we think that we can cut ourselves off from pain and still experience joy, but that emotions are far more it's like if you consider neutral to be zero, it's like the only way that you can experience positive 50 is by being willing to experience negative 50. But
Hmm.
that the converse is also true of like by going through the grief. And that's where I really want to go next, right? How do we go through it? By going through the grief, our capacity for joy and empathy and love expands so much more.
Hmm.
Because like you, I can look at all the big pains in my life and say, I love better now than I did before that. And
Yeah.
ultimately, like that's our work. We were just in an episode a couple of months ago now, we were talking about you know, it was a it was laying down perfect was the name of the episode. It was talking about um how we read verses like, be perfect as my heavenly Father is perfect. And we're like, oh, God wants us to be perfect. The context of that verse is love. Like, how
Hmm.
do you be perfect? How do you move towards that completeness that Christ invites us into? It's through love. And how do we do that? There's some laying down of our lives that has to happen.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so then take me here because ultimately, and hopefully, you who are listening recognize this, every guest on here has a story, but we share the story not to say, look at all that she's gone through and how she's overcome, although that in and of itself is a testimony to the goodness of God. But now there's that invitation of what can it look like for you. And so whether you're walking through a big grief or there's something that's happened in the past that maybe needs a little revisiting, JoBeth, take us there. What what would you say to someone who either is navigating a fresh grief, or and we might have to split the two up. So maybe that you tell me, but like what do you say to someone when they're grieving and they're like asking these big questions and they don't want to doubt, but they're feeling doubt or they're feeling anger and they don't know what to do? Like what does it look like to hold space for that person, and how can they hold space for themselves?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I would say that it does look different depending on where you're at. So like did it just happen yesterday? And that's what we're doing. So like let's say you're a friend of the person, because let's start there. If I am the friend of somebody who just lost somebody, I'm going to listen. I'm going to shut my mouth and I am going to listen.
Yeah.
And there are people who have experienced very tragic things, even if it's not super tragic. Maybe it's just, like my husband's death wasn't like traumatizing in that it was just like sudden and oh my gosh, it was a very slow thing. So I didn't like necessarily feel like I had to retell that part. But like if somebody had a spouse that died of suicide or a car accident or something that's really sudden, it's really, really helpful to just sit and listen to them talk because I have so many people that they overshare with people who can't handle it. And then that person ends up saying or doing something that makes that person feel stupid for sharing that or embarrassed, and then your relationship is weird. And so if you're a person that can handle it, I'm a person that can handle it. You can tell me stuff all day long and
Mhm.
I'm not going to think anything, but not everybody is there.
Yeah.
And so if you're that person that is there, just sit and listen. Let them retell the story. Let them retell it again
Yeah.
and retell it again. I've had people tell me the same story maybe 5, 6 times,
Mhm.
and they know they've told me the story.
Yeah.
And I listen to it like it's my first time. And,
Um,
and you should do the same for that person. If you're on the flip side of that and you are the person that's grieving, you being able to talk to somebody is really important. And I hope that everybody has somebody in their life that they can just set and spill it all to them. But I want to throw some caution out there too, because a lot of times that's our close family who are also grieving the
mhm.
loss of, I mean, if you lost it, they lost it too, if you're in
Yeah.
a family. And, dumping, and that was a mistake I made. I was dumping on somebody who couldn't handle it. And so you need to make sure it's somebody that can really handle it and you're not causing more harm
Yeah.
to an already hurtful situation. And if you don't, like that's what coaches and counselors are for,
Mhm.
is to provide a space for you to say everything you need to say.
Yeah.
Um, so that's first. And if you are the listener to somebody who is hurting, you need to validate feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I say things like, "Oh, of course you're angry.
Mhm.
Of course you're sad." Like, why wouldn't you be sad?
Yeah.
Like, you're so sad. It makes
Mhm.
it makes sense. I would be sad too. I'd be angry too.
Mm.
Just validate, validate, validate.
Mhm.
Like that what they're feeling is real, and
Yeah.
you're not saying I understand how you feel. Don't say that
Yeah.
because you don't.
Yeah.
Um, but you just sat there and validate everything that they're saying. And I think that if we can have both sides of that, that is like the first thing, because I think you
Mhm.
have to do that before you can get down to like figuring things out. Like you have to
Yeah.
like download all this stuff,
Mhm.
start organizing it. Okay.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Okay. And then one of the things that comes to my mind too, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is when that stuff comes out, I think, and this is probably why you're saying tell somebody that's safe, it can
Hmm.
be really raw. Like,
Hmm.
I hate God. I'm so angry. Why would he do this? Like there can be some things that I think as believers can feel scary to hear because we're like, oh no, don't
Yeah.
walk away from the Lord. But like my thought, but I want to hear yours because this is your work, right? Like my thought is to give them room and just, I get it. I hear
Mm-hmm.
you. Like, is that where you leave it? Just let them say it all. How mad
Yeah.
they are, how hurt they are. Because people did that for me when I was in my big griefs. And one of my big griefs was very explosive, like crisis. Like it brought up all kinds of, for me, very scary things to feel
Mm-hmm.
about the Lord and about my faith. And yet the people that ministered to me the most let me do it.
Yeah.
They gave room with no filter. Is that what you would say?
Absolutely.
Anything you
Yeah.
would add to that?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I mean, yeah, it is. As a Christian, it's hard to hear somebody be like, I'm angry at God or I hate God or I'm, like, because we like, we're like kind of cringe inside, like, oh gosh, don't go there. But
Mhm.
the thing is like, just like I said before, like things have to come out before you can deal with them. And like,
Yes.
I appreciate honesty because at that point we can move forward. If I don't know that you're angry at God and then we try to start like, you know, it's like if you've had a house plant and you've overwatered it and the roots are rotten and you
Mhm.
keep trying to do stuff above the soil to
Yeah.
help it and it just doesn't get better. Well, that's because you're not addressing the root issue there.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to skip over that, we're not going to make progress like we should. And
Mhm.
so, and my gosh, can we all just be a little tougher, please? And be
Yeah.
able to hear that from people. Like, it's
Yeah.
not about you. And I think we also need to trust that like God has this person.
Yes.
Like if she is angry or he is angry at God, that means they're still believing. They're
Yeah.
still in relationship. Like we get angry at our husbands. We
Yep.
get angry at our kids. That doesn't mean the relationship's over. So like how can I foster you building that relationship back? And I can't
Mhm.
help you with that if I can't acknowledge the way you feel. And
Yeah.
like, as friends and therapists and counselors, like how we feel is irrelevant.
Mhm.
Okay. Like, we have to focus on them and letting them say what they need to say so that we can, start from the roots up.
Oh, that's so good. Okay. So first we hear them, but then you said then we can get to work after that. So
Yeah.
what's the work?
Oh gosh, it seems daunting to like answer that. So I I think there's what I did, and I think there's what a lot of people do. And then there's things that people, I think there's a fast track and there's a slow track, and maybe they all end up the same place. But grief was dark for me. It
Yeah.
was, it felt like, like when you haven't taken a shower in a few days, like you've been camping, or maybe your water's out, or maybe
Mhm.
not a few days, that'd be a lot. But like a couple days, you just start feeling grimy, and you
Yeah.
need to like it feels like you got to get it off of you. You're like, I got to get in the shower. Like, I got to, that's like a very light version of what grief felt like for me. It was
Mhm.
like, I have to get out of this as fast as possible. And I told my
Mhm.
therapist, who was phenomenal, man, I cannot imagine going through it without her. But I was like, I'm going to expedite this process. Like, I hate it so bad. Like, I hate that I wake up and I'm immediately sad. And I hate that I've been sad for the past year. I hate that I can't wear mascara anymore because I cry it
Mhm.
off. I hate that people look at me and are like, "You look tired." It's like, "Yeah, I'm tired, Karen." Like, what do
Yeah.
you think I'm doing? Napping
Yeah.
all day? Anyways, like, I'm tired of just feeling the oppression of this situation. And so I was like, I'm going to expedite it and you're going to help me. And she was like, you can't expedite it. And I was like, watch
Mhm.
me. Like, watch me. Because
Mhm.
like I can't do this. Like I can't. Like
Mhm.
it is physically like I was too skinny, and which was kind of cool a little bit because I'd never been super thin and I saw my ribs for the first time. I was like, "Hey, like I've
Mhm.
got I've got some, grief diet going on." And I could eat whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
The weight just fell off. It was cool, kind of. But that I was like, I can't do that. That is unhealthy. I hate the way I
Yeah.
feel, all these things. So, anyways, what did we do moving forward? What did I do? Um, a lot of people listen to all the podcasts, they read all the books, and then they get like information overload. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like there is so much coming in that like you're in what do they call it? Analysis paralysis, where you're
Yes.
just like, you don't know what to do. Should you go into deep mourning and wear black for a year like they did in the old days? Or should you, get up and wash your face and put on your armor and go out into the world? It's like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
I did not read a book. People brought me lots of books. I didn't read them. And I went to my therapist and I was like, okay, we made a plan. This is what we're doing. And like, that's what I did. So, what did that look like? I got real curious about God, real
Mm.
curious. And it wasn't, so I think a lot of people at this point, they're like, I want to get to heaven because I want to see my husband again. I want to see my kid again, like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And I didn't feel so much that way. I wanted to go to heaven because I didn't want this life anymore.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know more about Jesus. Who was he? Um, how can I be more like him?
Yeah.
Because I know now this world is not where I want to be. I don't like
Yeah.
it here anymore.
Yeah.
And so getting real clear on that. Prayer life was basically non existent. Made a commitment to God in the very beginning. Heal him here or heal him in heaven. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not
Mm.
going to lose my faith, because I think the second scariest thing to losing my husband was losing God too. And it was
Yeah.
it was my choice. We talked about choice earlier, and I had the choice to walk away. And it's not that I'm holier than anybody else. It was just a decision that I made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then I went psycho mode on my healing. I got up in the morning and I took an ice bath because I felt like life is really hard. I'm up against it. At the time, we had two kids we adopted from foster care.
Yeah.
We were, they were partially homeschooled, partially private school. So had them home a lot. 120-acre cattle farm, a construction company,
Mm.
and three broken hearts living under one roof.
Good night.
So I needed to wake up in the morning and I needed to do something that I felt like 98% of the world wasn't tough enough to do. Because I was
Mm.
like, I got up and I got in the ice and I reminded myself who I was. And I was like,
Mm.
you, you are bad news, girl. Like, you got stuff to do. And it was a mindset that I had to get in, that like, man, I'm tough. I am
Mm-hmm.
so tough. I'm resilient. Like, I may have an absolutely shattered heart, but like, watch me move these cows, like,
Yeah.
and the failure that I was encountering, like, I bet I said, I don't know, 30, 40 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
What's this password? I don't know. Where are the keys to this? I don't know. Does this have a title? I don't know. What about this job? I don't know. Like, I, there was, my husband and I were a good team. He did his stuff and I did my stuff. And together we got it all done.
Yeah.
And then I had to figure out all of his half because
Mm-hmm.
it was not efficient for us to both know everything.
Yeah.
And so, um, I think you have to get really serious and really dedicated. I treated my grief like a business. I treated it like, it's not a, do I feel like working on this today? I don't care how. I was like this is me to myself. I don't care how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like getting up, well, too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like eating right, too bad. You don't feel like working out, too bad. You don't feel like going to therapy, too bad. You don't feel like committing to this schedule that you made for yourself to get better. I cried. When I felt emotion, I'm like, ooh, I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm going to get it all out, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what people do. I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be strong. I'm not going to cry. For me, I was like, if I feel that emotion, I'm going to go deep into it and embrace it, because that's one thing my therapist taught me, that if I stuff them, I'm just saving them for later. And I was like, I'm
Mm.
not saving anything for later. There
Mm-hmm.
will be nothing left. And that's what I did. And I got the comment a lot that I didn't even look like I was grieving, or that I was like, it didn't look like I was having a hard time.
Ugh.
And that was in part because of how seriously I took it. Um,
Yeah.
and reminding myself too that I don't know what my purpose is. Like like, at this time, I'm just like, "I don't know, but I know that I'm still here and God's in control of whether I'm here or not."
Yeah.
And, I have work to do, so I'm gonna grieve when it's time to grieve, and I'm gonna work when it's time to work.
Mhm.
And just being very dedicated to that. I would park my car and turn on really sad music and just sit and cry, 'cause I didn't want the emotions trapped in my body. I posted on my
Mhm.
Facebook page a while ago about what grief does in your body.
Mhm.
Um,
What does it do?
Everything
Mm.
negative, you
Yeah.
wanna hold on to that, you're gonna get sick.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's um, grieved deeply has experienced the health issues that come with it. I
Mhm.
had a cough. My face was broke out. I had a rash all around my face.
Wow.
Um, I think I had gout at one point, and I was like, "I am not 80.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why do I
Not
have
even half of 80.
not even half of 80?" And I was like, "Why does this hurt so bad?" And there's no
Mhm.
explanation.
Yeah.
It was gout, but it went away. I mean, and so that's me doing it for, like, grieving hard for, like, a year probably at
Yeah.
least, and then I see people all the time that are 5 years in.
Mhm.
When we get 5 years in, 10 years into grieving,
Yeah.
it's not just gout anymore or
Yeah.
a skin rash. It's heart problems, it's cancer. There's been studies that show that, unresolved grief will come up as cancer after 10 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
scary, okay?
Yes.
I don't want to, I'm cool with, leaving here early, like, that's not a problem. I don't wanna be sick here. I have kids here
Yeah.
that need me for, I don't know how long. Geez, they may
Yeah.
need me forever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm here and I wanna be healthy, and part of that is dealing
Yes.
with my grief. So if somebody's listening and they're wondering, "How do you get through it?" You get serious. Quit messing around with it.
Mhm.
Quit treating it as an option.
Yeah.
Quit thinking that it's gonna go away because
Mhm.
it's gosh, I don't wanna offend anybody, but I feel like it's ignorant to think that you lost somebody that close to you, a husband, a child, a friend, a parent, a grandparent, and you think that after a year it's just gonna be better.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
No.
Christmas number 2 was worse than Christmas number 1.
Mhm.
That doesn't make sense. You have to learn how to deal with it, and you gotta get serious about it and quit treating it like it's optional. You got a life to live.
Hey, Mama, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you gave yourself some white space? I am not talking about a trip to the bathroom alone or even the grocery store. When's the last time you had what I like to call some no one needs me time? For homeschooling entrepreneurs, time like this isn't a luxury. It's actually a key component to a healthy business, homeschool, and family life. So, if you're ready for your next respite, whether it's you by yourself, you and your spouse, or a family trip, join us at our peaceful haven, Just Like Paradise, located on gorgeous Oak Island, North Carolina. This 3-bedroom house is just a short walk to the ocean and nearby restaurants. It has a screened-in back porch with fireplace that is to die for, hot tub, and even a fire pit if you're feeling ambitious. Book through the link in the show notes, and then you have a unique discount code, podcast100, to get a $100 discount on your stay as a thank you for being one of my listeners. Get your next getaway on the calendar today.
Oh, that's so good. And being afraid of it. It's like um in one of my griefs, it was like I I had to really get clear that God could handle my grief and I could handle my grief. That it's like it's not a problem. It's actually when I push it down that things become a problem because then it comes out sideways. And it comes out right after my dad died, I couldn't breathe. Like I was
Mhm.
with him when he passed and it was like I forgot how to breathe. And just like like you're talking about, I was like I'm going to do this. I'm going to go all the way
Mhm.
through it because the only like someone needs to hear this. The only way out is through.
Yeah.
The only way. There's no like, well, later, another day, I'm too busy, it's not the right season. The only way out is through, and you're gonna carry the pack on your back until you're willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And JoBeth, I love what you talk about of like, it's a business. grieving is my business right now
Mm-hmm.
until it's done, not done forever, but done for the, like you empty out and that's like, okay, I'm listening to the sad music. I empty out and then, okay, now I'm with the kids or now I'm taking care of what needs to be taken
Mm-hmm.
care of with the cattle. It's going to come back again. You know, my dad died 4 years ago almost. And it's, you know, it still comes out, but it's not stuck down in there. It's like just something comes to mind, something really sweet. You know, I cry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, now I'm okay. And
Yeah.
and just to finish, like what, so because I was like, I'm gonna reckon with this thing, I had a friend who did craniosacral therapy, which
Mm.
is very powerful for because emotions get trapped in the body and it helps release. And I went to her and she started working on my lungs and she said, "Tell me about your dad. I can feel it right there as I'm telling you this." And I wept and I talked about the
Yeah.
beautiful things and the really hard things and the painful things and the betrayals and all. It was a, you know, it was a complicated relationship. And when I left her office, I could breathe again. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, it's wild. Grief is wild. And
Yeah.
it, you know, and I feel right now telling this like I did 4 years ago, sitting in her office, just that tightness in the chest and the lump in the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if we weren't on camera right now, I'd boo-hoo-hoo, I'll let a little tears leak out, right? But it's just, we got to let it go so that we can do
Yeah.
the next thing and be faithful.
I think that's so interesting that you brought up cranial sacral therapy. I did say it right, didn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always like
Craniosacral. Yeah.
cranial. Anyways, I did that too. I
Did you?
forgot that I did it. Yeah. Which is odd because I did it almost every week. When
Wow.
like there was a time when like my husband was he was in hospice for a month, and then
Mhm.
like maybe a month or two after. But yeah, like if you have the opportunity to get that done by somebody who knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
like can I explain it? Nope, not my area. But I would, girl, if somebody was in here, I would get on the table right now and be like,
Yeah.
I need a session because
Go.
it's so good. So my lady did that, and while she was doing it, she's not a Christian, but she is a real positive thinker, and um, she would go, oh, "Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that you had a car that brought you here today? Isn't
Mm.
it wonderful that like there's somebody that is taking care of Travis right now and you don't have to be the one that's doing really hard things that you know he wouldn't want you to do? And isn't it wonderful that when you go home tonight, like your mom is probably going to have your bed made and you're just going to get in it with your kids and sleep tonight? And isn't it wonderful? Oh, isn't it wonderful? She would just like, and she would do that for 30 minutes. And it was like, it would be everything from like these big, like, oh, I'm so thankful that I have these kids that are, that keep me on my toes and keep me, living. All the way down to, isn't it wonderful that your body was able to walk in here today? Isn't it wonderful that you have a brain that can think up things that are really wonderful? And so she would do that to me, and it would literally change my state to thinking, okay, my husband's dying, but wow, isn't there a lot of wonderful things that are out there?
Mhm.
Um, I think that's really important. And something else that just came to mind too was, and I do it a lot in the work that I do with people, and I think it's the most important thing that we do is we change the way we think about
Mm.
things. And we
Mhm.
get up in the morning, you're like, maybe it's I don't want to go to work today. Um, no, tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, man, I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to work and provide for my family. I
Yeah.
can think of a lot of people that can't, and then they really wish that they could. And I hate working out. I'm thankful that I can work out. I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I can move my arms or my legs, or, maybe you are paralyzed. Maybe there's something that you can do. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. There's something that we can get up and we have a negative thought and we're able to switch that negative thought with a positive one. And all of a sudden we start to feel things drift away. And as Christians, we're not called to be anxious. We're not called to worry. He wants us to mourn and he wants us to grieve. But sometimes that also comes with, I hate my life. I hate this planet. Like I hate, I'm so angry. I'm this, I'm that, all these negative emotions, and be clear on what he called us to do.
Yeah.
And it's to give thanks in everything. And we can do that.
So talk to me about this then. For the person who's like, well, that's just Pollyanna. Or I'm just like, what's the difference between what you're saying and suppression? Talk to me about that.
Like making less of the devastating thing.
Well, when I say suppression, I mean like pushing it down. Oh no, I'm fine. Bless God. Praise God. Everything's great.
Oh,
Because I can hear in your voice it's not the same.
no, there's a so this is, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but like having two emotions that can exist at the same time, that's not something that um we do it, but we aren't aware of it so much. And
Yeah.
so we think that we can't grieve deeply and be thankful at the same time. And so when you're talking about suppression, that would be like, we're not ignoring this. We're making space for this. We're setting aside time to grieve and grieve deeply. And then we're also recognizing that there's a lot to be thankful for, and they exist at the same time, and we have to get used to that. Just get used to it. Realize that it's okay. My best example of two emotions existing at the same time, my sister and I planned on getting pregnant at the same time and having kids together. And the day, I think it was like within the day or two, somewhere around in there, where Travis and I found out we couldn't have kids, my sister found out she was pregnant. And so it was like the biggest excitement ever, because I was going to have a nephew. I was going to be really close to him. I was very excited, like over the top excited, and completely devastated, realizing that her having a baby was the closest thing I was ever going to get to having that experience.
Yeah.
And so it was like these two emotions collided so hard, and it was weird, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so as you're going through your grief journey, like just know that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you, but we have to create space because we want things 50-50. We want to get as close to 50-50 as we can with our emotions, understanding that there's negative emotions, but also embracing the other 50% of positive emotions fully, and not suppressing those
Yeah.
because we're sad. Like, can I still enjoy the beauty of nature? Is there anything that I can enjoy? And I think there was a time for me that the answer was no. Everything
Yeah.
made me sad. I just recently got to where I can look at the stars and not just feel total devastation. It's all a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've talked about what do we do? We have to share our story. We find places where somebody can hold space. And then I'll never forget how you described this of like, go to work, work through. And I've described this in here before, but it was so profound to me that I think in this context it bears repeating again, that um, we we think whatever emotion we feel, it's like if I feel this, it's going to go on forever. And when my dad died, the Lord said, grief has a bottom. And I needed that of like, I'm not just going to fall off a cliff and never land. It feels like that. Feels like if I open this door, there's
Mhm.
no end. So I just got to manage it. But I knew enough to know that that wasn't going to work. Right. And like you said, we're going to get sick if we try.
Mhm.
Um, and what I think feels so counterintuitive as human beings is it's by letting it out in all of its fullness that we actually move up. There's kind of a hierarchy of emotions that, there's that of just like the lowest is kind of shame and I don't have a right to exist or whatever. And then
Mhm.
and grief and sadness. And then we kind of go up through that to I forget there's like a whole hierarchy, but there's like neutrality and then joy and peace and all of that. And I was talking to my coach about my daughter who has some developmental challenges, and we were kind of in the process of really looking at what was going on. And there was a supposition someone raised that, hey, maybe she didn't get enough oxygen at birth, and that could have precipitated all of these things. And I was just weeping to him of like, I was right there, I was holding her, I was laughing and smiling, and meanwhile she couldn't breathe as much as she needed to. And I just was going on and on about how guilty I felt and how just wretched I felt. And he just held the space and he's like, just breathe, and gave me room to feel it all. And then at one point I kind of quieted and I said, I just feel so sad. He was like, great. I was like, what are you talking about? I'd metabolized the shame, the guilt and the shame, and I'd moved up to sadness. And of
Hmm.
course, in that moment, it's like the next moment I could go back there again because I could decide, oh, I'm a terrible mother. How could I miss this? And I might have to do another round. This is like a spiral. We just keep revisiting and keep revisiting, but each time, whether we get better at it or it doesn't have as much of a hold, I don't know what that is. Maybe you can speak to that, but um, we that's actually it's just that's how we get through, is by sitting all the way in the emotion until it's spent, and it always is.
Yeah. And I think most people are not willing to do that.
Yeah.
It just it's too scary, it's too hard. But I had a client that said something to me that I need to like print it out and put it up in my office. But she said she wanted to join one of my grief groups, and I was like, well, just so you know, it's going to be hard and there's homework, and like, you know, just so you know. And she was like, I'm not afraid of the work. I'm afraid of being in this exact same place next year. And I was like, yes, ma'am. We
Mm-hmm.
start next week.
Yeah.
Like, you're my girl. And that's I'm not going to discourage anybody from being in a grief group, but like if you're not, you need to be all in. I'm not going to
Yeah.
try to necessarily talk you out of it, but I'm kind of like, hey, are you ready? It's kind of like, man, when guys ride bulls and they're on the
Uh-huh.
bull and they got a nod before the bull gets let out.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of where we're at. It's like when you nod, we're going,
Yeah.
we're going all in, and I love those people.
Yes.
And I'm a
Yes.
little aggressive. Um and I coach with one of my best friends, and he's the dad of my daughter's best friends. Like we have a really wonderful like family. It's like blended families kind of. It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's the just soft and nice, and so like he really thinks about what he says, and it's usually right, and it's just so sweet. And we coach together, and I'll say something that's really harsh and a little bit aggressive, and he'll like pull the kid to the side and like modify it and sweeten it up and present it to them differently. And like, but that's kind of how I am. It's like, my gosh, do you want to keep sitting in your poopy diaper? That's what I call
Mm-hmm.
it. When you just want to sit and feel sorry for your situation and think about how bad it is. Like, do you want to sit there? Because I'm not going to sit in that with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. Like, if you want somebody to just sit there with you week after week after week as you just show up and talk about the same thing and never want to do anything about it, like,
Yeah.
not me.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming to me because you want to move forward.
Yeah.
And people know that. Like, if you want to pay a therapist $150 an hour and just, sit in your poopy diaper every week,
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
I'm not your person. And some people love that about me. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
people like
because
it.
what do they get on the other side, right? They get the freedom they're looking for. They get the relief they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
there can be something somewhat, to be perfectly honest, I was not emotionally healthy as a young woman, and I
Mhm.
loved touting pulling out my sad stories about all the ways that I was wronged. And I'll just let you guess how impactful I was for the kingdom during that season of my life, where I was just, I'm just going to sit in all my awful and talk about how terrible everybody's been to me. I mean, it
Yeah.
was exhausting. And the people that, because here's the flip side of it, we do not serve a karma God. We get radical grace extended to us.
Yeah.
And yet, the principle of reaping and sowing exists nonetheless. And so when we show up in relationships in that way, always the victim, always wounded, always, living, I've got people in my life who can tell you the sad stories that happened to them before they even have conscious memory. and they're still being pulled out, decades and decades later. And there is a huge deficit in the relationship that you are able to have when that's how you show up in the world. When that's how I showed up in the world, there was a huge deficit
Yeah.
because, the only people who would hang around to listen to that were people who were waiting their turn to share their own sad story.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. 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 You're in a taking season.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
that season lasts too long. And unfortunately, I see women that are years down the road.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they've lost everybody.
Mm.
Because when you're that person that you just described, where every time they show up, you're going to bring them down,
Yeah.
you're going to be whiny and bringing up stuff and negative and can't believe this happened to me. People have a time allowance for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I'm saying it's how it is.
Yeah.
Like, we all are dealing with something. We've all had hardships. Some of us worse than others, but like, your friends and family want to enjoy life with you. They want to have good times with you. And if they can't do that with you, then that's a part of the relationship that just isn't there anymore, that was so fruitful before. And so
Mhm.
it's so sad to me. And I've lost my share of relationships through my grief.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not speaking on you know, on the throne of I'm the grief expert and I did it all right, because I don't, and I can't pinpoint what went wrong
Yeah.
exactly. But I lost a lot of relationships. But I think you're probably going to lose some anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that you can prevent losing them by getting better and living your life. It's
Yeah.
very important. Um, and I don't
Well,
know.
and to that, I would say what I've noticed, and you tell me if there's another category, but we talked about where there's that kind of timeline and you draw down on the account too far, and
Hmm.
there's just they can't hold up the other side. That I've also found in my own life and just from observation, there's the category of people who um, haven't reckoned with their own grief
Hmm.
at the level that they need to hold space for yours, and so they
Yeah.
just can't hang. I don't know what to say. I had a friend who was an old friend, but we hadn't really kept in much touch. And when I had a loss in my life, I got like this really long text about like how hard it was for her to be there for me because she didn't know what to say. And I
Hmm.
hadn't asked anything of her. We weren't close enough for that. And then I told her that you don't need to do anything for me. And she never reached out again. Like that was the end of it. But she couldn't be in that uncertainty of I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. This feels too hard. This feels too intense. This is too personal. And she exited. And, so there is some threshing of just it's one thing to have a friend that you can go out to coffee with and talk about, like how the house is doing and oh gosh, life's so busy and
Yeah.
did you see or what are your plans for the weekend? But when life gets really, really big, some people don't know how to in some seasons or whatever, that it's just too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is, and that is another thing. Like, out of the relationships I lost, I gained some that are like rock solid
Yeah.
people. Like, it doesn't matter if I call and want to ask what they're doing this weekend, or call and tell them that, whatever horrific thought I just had. Like,
Yeah.
like, it's not surprising. Like, when I was grieving, I had a thought a lot that I drove a lot, and I was like, I could cross over the center line and hit this semi, and this is going to be over, and I won't have to deal with it anymore. And I have friends that I can tell that to, and they're going
Mhm.
to stay in it with me.
Yeah.
And then I can make a joke a few minutes later and they're going to laugh. Like, those are the kind of people I want. But yeah, sometimes grief weeds out the ones that, maybe were just there for the surface level
Mhm.
relationship. And I'm not into those relationships anymore. I don't need
Yeah.
somebody to have lunch with. Like,
Yeah.
listen, having lunch by myself sounds great.
It's
So,
pretty nice. As a homeschool mom, I'm right there with you. I
so
know.
I'm like, okay, eat alone. Don't make me. Like, it's so I mean, I think there's some good that comes there too, but we don't want to lose the relationships that are really important to us because we are just
Yes.
showing up negatively and being like an energy suck all the
Mhm.
time. Like, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm here for. That is
Yeah.
what I'm here for, to get you back in the saddle and
Mhm.
finding joy and peace again because it is attainable. And my therapist told me, she said, you will feel joy again. And I was like, no, it's not there. And I remember the first time I felt it, I was standing in my living room and I felt it for no reason. It just kind of came on me. And I was like, what? I just felt some joy. And I can speak from experience that it's attainable for all of us, but we have to go after it fiercely.
Yes. Oh, it's attainable for all of us, but we have to go after it fiercely. That's perfect. Mm. So we were going to talk about fresh grief and then that kind of trapped, stale grief. I feel like we caught that just through talking about what happens in our health,
Mhm.
what happens when people are around us and they just don't want to be around us anymore. Is there anything else you would say to the woman who's like, yeah, I really haven't dealt with that piece?
Do it now. Like, there's not a better time than now. And we hear that all the time. Like, but like, if you don't, you know, like it doesn't have to be me. I don't, I could, I think I'm great for some people, but I don't care if you work with me or not. Uh, right now, pick up your phone and make an appointment with me or with a counselor. I love doing 30-minute. I do a free 30-minute like consult call, and I like these because in 15 minutes, people give me a 360 view of what's going on, and I can tell you what you need to do. My grief
Yeah.
group may be great for you. Working one on one with me might be great. Maybe you need to be in therapy. Maybe you need both. Maybe you need to go to rehab. And unfortunately, that's the case sometimes that rehab needs to be number one.
Mhm.
You got to sober up before you can deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can give you direction. And then after that, you can just go do whatever you want. But it's a really good opportunity. And there's no investment. It's like the only investment is that you're probably going to sweat a little and it's going to bring up some emotions that you don't want to deal with. But then, like, we don't have a detailed roadmap. But I can tell you, like, this sounds like the best thing for you to do and get started because, like, that analysis paralysis or just staying stuck because you just don't know what to do. You're just
Yeah.
buffering, dangerous. Just make a decision. This
Yes.
this is not hard. Like,
Mhm.
make a decision, make an appointment.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, we talk about that in this podcast a lot of just move your feet.
Mhm.
And my husband and I, granted, unrelated, but we've spent buckets of money on health related things, just
Mhm.
buckets. And he's like, if we had that money back, I'm like, yeah, but we acted on our own behalf. Sure, some of the things didn't work, some of the things were the wrong direction, but we didn't stop moving.
Yeah.
So, it's like, don't go looking for the perfect group, the perfect time of day, the perfect
Mhm.
person, whatever it is. Move your feet. And I'm just going to tell you, you're listening to JoBeth right now. If you like her, grab the link from the show notes now before you chicken out and send her a message. Just now, because then it's amazing what happens when we just settle the thing and take action, even just booking the appointment. So
Yeah.
what's
Just do it.
do it. What's
I
probably
think.
happening right now is you're feeling that stirring inside and you don't like it and you're like, maybe she's talking to someone else. No, you know if it's you. So handle the thing. This life is a gift. And if we're having a hard time connecting with that reality because of what we've lost, oh, there's this great verse in Lamentations that I think it's the New Living Translation. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Just the way that's phrased. It's so how we speak now. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. And now I'm losing a little bit. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. His mercies are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. I might be intersecting things in the wrong places, but you get the idea,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're sitting there going, I will never forget this awful time, get that support. whether it's something from 10 years ago or something that happened yesterday. Okay. So JoBeth, how can people find you and what does it look like to work with you? You've talked about this, the grief groups and concept, but what does it really look like?
So if you want to contact me, you're going to put a link
Yeah.
in the description. But Facebook is great. You can just send me a message on Facebook and follow my page because I post stuff occasionally that's helpful. Like
Yeah.
may or may not be helpful for you. Um, so that's a good way to reach out. And then my phone number, my email, send me some mail. Just kidding, don't mail me anything. But like anyway is fine. The grief groups are great if you need a group. So if you're one of those people that you're like, my child committed suicide and I need somebody, I need people who understand what I'm going through and that I can just sit and pour out my heart with, like, you need a group. Because I mean, not to brag, but I got like really high quality women in these groups. They're ready, they're on fire. That's who you want to be around. But I was the kind of person that I didn't want a group. Like my time was so limited and just scarce that it was like I need to get in and out in an hour. I need you to tell me what to do so that I can go do it and come back better next week. Like that's what
Yeah.
I need. And so if that's you, you need one-on-one support. Or maybe your grief is just so horrible that you can't even bear the thought of having to listen to anybody else talk.
Yeah.
Then in that case, the one-on-one's for you too. In the grief groups and the one-on-one, I take people through the grief recovery method. It's an evidence-based program that evidence-based means that there is evidence that if you go through this program, you will feel better. That's the point. And that's our point. We're not trying to find our purpose in life. We're not trying to, do these big extravagant things. Like in those 7 to 8 weeks, we're making you feel better by taking steps that we know will make you feel better. And that's what we're doing. And so, yeah, it's 7 weeks if you're in one-on-one and 8 weeks if you're in group. And that's what we do. We go through steps. We do really hard work that's like kind of disgusting, really. It's just like, oh, like I don't want to get that on me. It's like I don't want to open that, but like you have to if you want to get better. So do you want to get better or not? Like, so if you want to get better, then we're moving forward with the group. But there's peace and there is a release at the end that is just unexplainable, really. I went through it myself, and um, there's a letter at the end. Spoiler alert. There's a letter that you write at the end. And I wrote my letter and I had my head down on our bar like this. And there was literally a pool of tears
Mm.
underneath me. And it was really sad, but it was a release of emotion that had been existing in me for a while. And that's what we want. And it's beautiful. It's great. I'm really great because I teach everybody how to behave around you if you're in a group, and I don't say stupid stuff. And I think that's the problem when we try to heal ourselves by just talking to friends and family, that they're offering up advice that they just because they don't know what to say. So
Mm.
it's good to be with somebody who is a professional. Um, yeah. So just book the call. Like I'm not going to try to like pitch you and be like, I'm the only way. I'm the only way to feeling better because I didn't have me. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's other ways. But I can help you get on the right track, and that's what I want more than anything is for somebody to be like, we talked, I did what we discussed, and I'm feeling better now. And that's the goal.
I love it. Okay. All right. So they're gonna come to you, they're gonna nod, and the bull goes. And it's just they're on.
Such a redneck analogy, but
I love it.
that's
I
just
love
what
it.
came to me.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Well, listen, it matters how we live, and the people who listen to this podcast know that. That's why they're here. So they're going to show up. They're going to do the hard work. They've been doing it already in other spaces, and this is just such a gift for you to be just an option for them to come and talk to and work through these things because it matters. And yeah, the only way out is through. So connect with JoBeth so that you can go through to the other side where there's peace and joy waiting. So, JoBeth, thank you again so much. What a gift.
Thank you.
All right. And you, friend, go ahead, do the hard work. I know you're doing it in many other spaces. If you're feeling that inkling, that burning inside, that it's time, reach out to JoBeth, reach out to someone else, just move your sweet feet, okay? Till next time, as always, you've got this because he's got you.
Friend, thank you so much for listening to this most recent episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So listen, the whole idea behind this mission is that when we endeavor to be brave with our lives, we need to do it together. Belonging is key. So if you resonated with the message from this episode, share it with a friend. Do it together. Thank you again, and never forget, you've got this because he's got you.